CEO of the daily email newsletter Morning Brew, Alex Lieberman. Guys, thank you very much for being here. Act 2, we start the same way. I don't know if you noticed, you've done this show quite a few times. We start the same way as we started Act 1.
Verse 2.
We're checking the market action right here, right now, and you can see red across the board still. Although the NASDAQ is knocking on the door of shifting into the green. You can see there the Dow is off 32 points right now, and the S&P off about 4. We will keep you up to date on all the market action in our hour, but we're also watching Bitcoin's tumble stabilize a bit after briefly dipping below $10,000 over the weekend to reach a 2-week low. The decline followed just days after President Trump took to Twitter to rage against Bitcoin, other digital currencies, as well as Facebook's proposed crypto project Libra. And it's under that backdrop that Facebook's head of Calibra, David Marcus, will head to Capitol Hill to address the Senate Banking Committee and House Financial Services Committee later this week. But earlier today, the Senate published Marcus's prepared testimony, which included a shot back at the, quote, serious concerns raised by Fed Chair Jay Powell, who listed money laundering and financial security as top question marks facing the project. In his prepared remarks, Marcus notes, quote, the Libra Association, which will manage the reserve, has no intention of competing with any sovereign currencies or entering the monetary policy arena. It will work with the Federal Reserve and other central banks to make sure Libra does not compete with sovereign currencies or interfere with monetary policy. So for more on how Facebook's crypto goals are about to be scrutinized on the Hill, we're joined by the Director of External Affairs at the Blockchain Association, Kristen Smith. And Kristen, first off, Facebook says it's not competing with other currencies, but it kind of is, just by virtue of being a transactional digital currency. So is that the biggest concern you're hearing voiced by politicians when we talk about Libra?
It's definitely one of the concerns that's come up in the meetings that we've been having up on Capitol Hill in the past 2 weeks. But there are a lot of other concerns about Facebook and the Libra Association and the Calibra wallet. The number one concern we hear is privacy. And this might not have anything to do with most cryptocurrency projects, but with Facebook, they bring a different element to the table. We're also hearing concerns about the governance of the Libra Association and how that might work. And that, I think, gets to some of the monetary policy questions that came up with the Fed chairman earlier this year. And we're also hearing concerns about the fact that the Libra Association will be headquartered in Switzerland. There are a lot of U.S. companies that are participating in this, and lawmakers in particular who like to see jobs here and who like to see the U.S. be a leader in innovative spaces want to see that stay here in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, when you weigh all of those things, clearly there are a lot of reasons to be skeptical if you're a politician, a lot of reasons to really fight back here and say maybe we don't want Facebook just running this without any concerns or any questioning here. But when you look at it, I mean, you've laid out all of those. Is there one in particular that maybe they'll have trouble addressing when it comes to the testimony both tomorrow and Wednesday? I mean, if you are a politician and you're hearing that Switzerland is going to be the one really regulating this, I mean, what is left for them to really dig into here?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a good answer to the Switzerland question that would please or appease lawmaker concerns on this issue. So that one is going to be tough to get around. Furthermore, there's some questions about whether or not the structure of Libra functions like a security or some type of exchange-traded fund. Those are, I think, going to be tough answers that are going to be hard for lawmakers to wrap their heads around. But it's really our hope at the Blockchain Association that the problems with Libra Project and Facebook aren't associated with the broader industry, because there's so much innovation happening, so many projects out there that aim to address security, privacy, and competition issues out there, the very same problems that Facebook pose, that we want to make sure that the whole industry isn't lumped in the same basket with this project.
Hey, Kristen, Brian Chung here. So it seems like the concerns that have been mounted regarding the Libra Association is really about the size and the potential scale of this whole thing, right? So, I mean, in essence, it still is kind of a closed blockchain, if you will, because you need to be transacting with a company that's in the association for all of this to work together. But it seems because of just the sheer amount of users that Facebook has, that the uptake of this could really be large enough where it might be systemic, as Jay Powell put it in terms of his language. So what is the line there in terms of the way that you're dealing with this as opposed to the other cryptocurrencies that we've seen in the past, like a Dogecoin or Ethereum, where the network and the community is just smaller?
Yeah, well, I think the industry itself has a pretty mixed reaction to the project. I mean, like you pointed out, this is it is an open project, but it is a permission project. So not everyone is able to operate the nodes of the network like you would with Bitcoin or some of the other projects that are out there. So that's an important distinction. But we also have other people in the community that realize that because of Facebook's user base, and if this were to be integrated into their platform, this could be the equivalent of the AOL in the 90s that brought millions of people onto the internet. If this were to succeed in a way that meets all the regulatory requirements and actually get off the ground and get going, then it could bring millions, if not billions, of people into using cryptocurrencies and could be a stepping stone to using the more permissionless systems that are out there.
That's the optimistic case. I just want to ask you real quick about the pessimistic case that all the attention that Libra is now bringing to the blockchain space might actually backfire, and potentially, as you saw with the president saying he's not a fan of Bitcoin or crypto in general and how it's based on thin air. I mean, could it backfire to the point where you might see a call to ban cryptocurrencies across the board?
Well, I certainly hope not. I mean, having the President of the United States tweet about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and Libra, albeit maybe not the best phraseology that we would like to see, was certainly a threshold moment for the industry. I mean, I think even 6 months ago, this was not something that was on the radar of the president. And to have that level of attention is certainly causing a lot of consumers and also policymakers here in Washington to try to figure out what this technology means for the first time. So in that sense, it's an opportunity. But what we've seen so far is there was actually some draft legislation that's kicking around Capitol Hill right now that would ban large internet platforms from offering a cryptocurrency. And we were comforted as an industry to see that at the very least that legislation is targeted really just at Facebook and not the broader industry at this time. So we're going to continue to have these conversations and make sure people know the difference between the broader industry and what Libra is trying to do.
Yeah, a very large threshold for companies, tech companies that have a very large amount of revenue there being the target on Facebook. But Kristen Smith, thank you so much. We'll be watching tomorrow on Wednesday to see what comes out of the testimony. Thank you again.
Great.